there's any number of desperate medical circumstances and situations that people need help, and I want to bring awareness, and I want to have a platform on this channel, regardless that the name is Defeating Cancer, to give patients and to give people like Doug an opportunity to tell their story. But Doug, that's awesome. You meet somebody that needs a liver transplant, uh, and you feel compelled of the Lord to be that donor, but your journey wasn't as smooth as just donating your liver. There were some complications that you had to endure yourself. Would you mind discussing some of those complications that you had personally after you donated your a portion of your liver to save somebody else's life?
Well, uh, Cleveland's the best hospital I've ever been to, ever. They're wonderful. I was just a stubborn patient. Usually, I was literally, Cleveland said I was in the 2% club, and it was because I was just a bad patient. I did things I wasn't supposed to do. So I had a couple of complications, and they snowballed. The first was I did too much too soon while I was there, and caused a bile leak, which began to poison where the liver had just been freshly cut. So they had to put me back in the hospital and put a drain in to draw that bile out. And so that was the first one. I won't go into all the details about that. And then when I came home, we helped a lady coming down to see you on our way home that was stuck in her car had broken down. We pushed her car out of the road, and I was fresh from the surgery, and it tore my diaphragm.
Oh,
So my intestines went up through that hole because the diaphragm's where your liver's connected. So when they cut the liver away from the diaphragm, it's thin for a time. I tore my diaphragm again, something that I did,
right.
and my intestines went up in behind my lungs. So that one became extremely dangerous very fast. So I had to have diaphragmatic repair. And then that, cutting the same nerve so many times in such a short time, destroyed the nerve, and the muscles began to die. And so everything began to push out organ wise because there was nothing holding it back in. So I eventually had almost a 360-degree wrap put in.
Wow.
So there were three following surgeries, but again, and just because it's true, it was due to my own stupidity, uh, and nothing that they had done. They did a wonderful job.
Right.
But now, on the other side, everything is great. I'm doing wonderful, and no complications resulting now whatsoever. So Mark and I are both doing great.
So now let me ask you, in light of the complications that you have, and one thing that you're not letting on, the complications that you had could have been potentially life threatening complications.
Right.
You could have died from those.
Right.
And so uh, I got to be honest with you. One of the things that crossed my mind is, in retrospect, at that time, not now, but at that time, that your life was in danger as a result of donating your liver to someone else to save their life. Were there any regrets at all, or
Right.
any second thoughts?
Right. Well, I'll start with this. I'm a chicken. I'm a big chicken. So, and I don't. So I'll just be honest. I would never even dreamed of doing this. Uh, I know it was God, and He gave me a peace about it from day one. And I say this to the glory of God, and I'm not trying to turn this religious, but this is just the truth in my life.
Right.
I would have probably been scared and had regrets and everything, but every single step of the way, even when I knew that things could be life threatening, I never had a moment of regret or even worry. I knew the consequences, and that's
Right.
not so, oh boy, I faced it. No, I just, when you absolutely know God told you to do it, then you know that whatever's happening wasn't a mistake, and I'm where I'm supposed to be. And however it ends, it wasn't that I always thought everything would be okay.
Right.
It's however it ends, it's the way it's supposed to be because I did what I was supposed to do, and that's okay. So I never had a moment of doubt because the things I learned in the hardest times were worth it. So
That's awesome. Now, not only did he donate his liver and go through these complications himself and spend a lot of time in the hospital recovering and having surgeries to repair some of the damage that was caused by donating his liver and some of the mistakes that he made physically by not taking good care of himself. But in addition to that, now that him and Mark, the man that he donated his liver to, they have a personal relationship. There's so many people that donate a kidney or donate a heart or donate lungs that they never get to meet those people. You
Mm-hmm.
never get to meet the
Right.
recipient. But he has been blessed not only to have met the recipient, but they have developed a friendship and a relationship that has endured uh, these past few years. Tell me a little bit about that relationship.
Well, we met for Mexican dinner before we went up. That's the first time we met each other. And he was so sick that while we were at the table, he just kind of laid over on the wall. He was in bad shape,
Right,
eyes wrong color. And so we got to know each other a little bit, but that's awkward. That's shallow. And then we met there the night before, and we spent the evening together, and that was a good time. And we had communion together.
um,
And we said, okay, this is our rock planted. We're gonna have communion together today before we go in the hospital. And on the other side, when we're both okay, we'll have communion together and remember this day, right?
right,
But it ended up being 2 years later because we went through so many complications that we had communion together to celebrate. But he's become so close to the family. He doesn't have any natural children of his own,
right.
and I have 3 sons, and he treats them like they're his children. And his
Wow,
wife is named Brenda, my wife is named Brenda. They're so much alike. Uh, we're just they're probably the closest friends I have. They're just wonderful. And I guess something like that really, when you go through it together, it really bonds you. Uh, but every time he gets in trouble or does something wrong, he blames it
blames
on
it
my
on
liver.
on,
So
on your liver.
yeah,
If your liver wasn't in him,
right.
now I do want to ask you, since he has received your liver, is he losing any of his hair at all? Is he going
No,
bald?
if anything, it's thicker.
Oh, it's
Uh,
thicker. It's thicker.
he
So,
disgusts me. So
and the let me ask you this: with when you were up in the hospital and you were going through this whole process, uh, did you happen to see people in the hospital that were waiting on, I guess, transplant donors, hearts, livers, or kidneys that weren't so blessed, weren't so lucky?
we one that we thought was exactly what you said, but ended well.
Um,
Um, we met a number of people and didn't get to share stories, but our first night there, I was we were walking over to Mark's apartment. They put us in a transplant house, which is a wonderful Cleveland transplant house. They house only people that are giving or receiving organs. And there was a lady there, and Mark's walking in front of me, and I hardly know him. And he stops. He's talking to this lady. I've got everything on my mind about the next day. I'm just worried to death. And he's not worried, but anxious.
right,
And he says, Doug, I need you to come over here and talk to this lady. I'm like, really, Mark, tonight? So, but when I get there, this lady is she's sitting on this little stone wall and she's weeping uncontrollably. And her husband's been waiting on a liver for 3 years. And he's gotten so sick that he can no longer live at home. He's in the hospital to die.
right.
Uh, he doesn't have a live donor. And in just days, because he doesn't have a live donor, he's going to pass.
Wow.
And he didn't have a cadaver. So Mark said, I want you to pray for this lady. And so we prayed together. And this is one that I'm the old Baptist pastor. I'm not mystical, right? But there's times you just know God leads you to pray bold, and times you just pray, God, whatever you will,
Right.
you know. And I prayed with her, and she just laid over on my shoulder, uncontrollably crying. So I prayed that God would make a way, even though it didn't look like it, and that we could give Him the glory for it. It would happen in such a way she knew it had to be Him. And she thanked me, and she said, "Well, he's going to be dead in a day or two anyway. That's why we're here, just for him to pass."
Wow.
Well, We met them a few weeks later, and the very next day, he got a liver unexpectedly. Didn't think he'd even live through the surgery. He recovered and got out of the hospital before we did.
Oh, wow.
But he was a day or two from passing because he didn't have a donor. So um, it would just happen that we saw such a blessing and it ended differently.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah,
That's
pretty
awesome.
cool story.
And if you wouldn't have been obedient, who knows how that would have turned out.
And at least you wouldn't have known it was the good Lord's hand in it, you
That's
know?
that's that's exactly right. Uh, I've I've it's never crossed my mind to donate uh, a body part. You know, on your driver's license, it asks you want to be a organ donor, and of course, I've always checked that I do want to be a organ donor. Excuse me. If anything was to happen, I pass away. But a living donor, I've never considered that. The opportunity has never come up, and I have to be honest with you, I don't know that I would have the courage that you had under the same circumstances to do that. And uh, and right now, of course, I'm still dealing with a stage 4 cancer diagnosis, and I've received my radiation, and I'm waiting on some test results, in the next couple of months to find out how that radiation and the medication is affecting the cancer cells in my body. And I'm believing God that everything's going to be all right. And but
You do too much for your family and other people. He wants to keep you, I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And one of the purposes of this YouTube channel is to reach out to people that are going through any type of not only a medical issue, if you have cancer, or if you're taking care of somebody with cancer, or you have a long-term disability or illness, and there's some people that they don't necessarily have a a disease of some kind, but they've been involved in some type of accident or injury, and because of that, they're paralyzed and they've lost the function of their legs or their arms or their speech. And I want this channel to be a platform for people like that. And that's why I've got you giving this testimony today so that people can see that I'm serious about this thing, that I'm not trying to make it just about David and just about this YouTube channel and what I'm doing. But if you could speak to somebody that might be looking at this, that may have someone that their loved one, or maybe they themselves are waiting on a donor. Do you have anything, or maybe even there's somebody that's like me, that's never thought about it before, and they may be presented with an opportunity like that. Would you pour your heart out to somebody that might be watching that needs to hear what you've got to say?
Right. Well, boy, that's an impromptu. It's off the heart, off the cuff, from the
Right,
heart.
right.
It's the most incredible feeling in the world. Obviously, when everything is done, that the night after I was, everything came out good. And both of us were fine. And I walked over the hospital window looking out at the city lights at night to know there was another person living and breathing because there was a part of you with them was overwhelming. But I'll tell you this, sometimes the hardest things um, that you have to step out and do, you don't have the courage to do without the good Lord. You just couldn't do it on your own. Even when they seem not to be going well, even if you're the one in need of a transplant or you're the one sick, one, God is never out of control. Two, when you trust Him in some of the toughest times is the only time you really know your faith is real. And some of the toughest times that you go through when you don't understand, if you did understand, there would be no need in having faith and trust in God. And I think those are the times that whatever you say you believe, whatever you say that you trust, whatever you say that you have faith over, you don't even know yourself if it's real until you get to that point and it's either real or it folds. And I think the good Lord will let these times come into our life sometimes to draw us nearer to Him, to let us see where our faith really is and to grow it from there. and to
Right.
let you see the reality of how He works that you would never see any other way. Some of the sweetest times of your life, if you just surrender and trust instead of being anxious, some of the sweetest times of your life will be those toughest times when you know finally the truth that you never have really had anything but Him.
Right.
And I would say, whether you're helping another person or whether you're the one hurting, don't just hope, wait, and pray for that time when it's all over. Take the time where you are. Tell God you love, appreciate, trust where you are, and just do nothing but seek Him in where you are. Instead of focusing on where you're at, you just focus on getting closer to Him, and you won't believe how He will reveal Himself. And trust that He's got it, and His work will be done. And if He calls you to do something crazy, you just trust Him and you just step. He'll give you the courage if you just say yes. You don't have to be courageous. You don't have to be a superhero. You just have the courage to say yes, and He'll take it from there and give you what you needed anyway, because you don't have it without Him. And I don't know if that's exactly what you were asking for, but that's what I've learned out of all of this.
Hey, that's fine with me, Doug. I want to thank you for taking your time to drive all the way down here from West Virginia just to visit me and to share with people that are viewing my YouTube channel, your story and your testimony.
Well, what you're doing here is awesome, and
And
like I said, it's helping so many people. And you'll probably edit this out, but David's wife told me now he's out having treatment for cancer. Um, I tore an ACL in my leg, and he thought I wouldn't get to come see him because I have an ACL tear. And he said, "Well, I'm about to go back to work, and I didn't get to see Doug because I'm just now getting down here." He said, "Why don't we pack up and go up and see him?" And he's the guy trying to recover from cancer treatment. And he wanted to come see me because I tore my ACL. So I love you, buddy. That's awesome.
I
You made me
love,
feel bad, but
oh,
that's awesome.
I love
So,
you. Hey, look, guys, if you're getting any value out of this content, you could do a tremendous favor. Number one, by liking this video. I would appreciate it if you could share it with somebody. Maybe you know somebody that is going through a organ issue that needs a transplant, or somebody that lines up with what Doug was talking about. Maybe somebody that's going through cancer or cancer treatment. Any of those things. Please share this video, like the videos, and subscribe. And by subscribing, you let me grow this community, and it gives me the opportunity to share with you and to share with others like you. So please like and subscribe, and I appreciate
and if you think David should donate some of his hair to a needy person, you can let him know.
it. Yeah,
Just
put
say,
that in the comments below.
thank you guys
Thanks,
for
guys.
letting me be part.